Okay, here we are. It's week 3. I am in the garage again, where I like to do all of my coding. Right, so this week, if you have a look on Canvas, we are going to encounter a few new important coding concepts. The main one being loops, and there are a couple of different types of loops, and we'll discuss each in turn. And all we're really going to do is use them in conjunction with the knowledge we've already gained on lists and logic. In fact, we haven't really covered lists, but I think they'll be reasonably intuitive for you. We've treated some strings like lists, so we can do things like pick out characters from a list, choose items, or we can reverse a list. A list doesn't have to just be a list of characters. It can be anything, numbers, it can be Boolean variables, it can be a mix of different elements as well, with different data types. So let's work through these questions one by one. We'll start with number 1. It's a simple one to begin with. It's called sum a list. So we're going to take a list of numbers, and here they are. I'm going to copy these. I'm going to head on over to my Visual Studio Code, which I've got running, and I've got a week folder I've created here, and I'm going to click new file, question1.py. Okay, and you'll see here that I'm in my command line. I have cd'd into that folder, so I'm in my week 3 folder. Otherwise, it won't run if I do python q1.py, or if I click run. There we go. That's doing that now. Actually, yeah, that worked. That worked fine anyway, so it's fine. So I've got a list. Let's call it list. In fact, I'm not going to use list because you notice if I type the word list, it goes green. And the reason it goes green is because the word list is actually a function in Python. So I don't want to use a variable name which has already been dedicated to a function name in Python. So I'm going to call it something else. I'm going to call it my list, just to be really specific. And I'm going to paste that in. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to, oops, get rid of that. I want to add every number in that list. Now that's trivial, right? In this case, I could do that probably in my head, just about. But you might not have a 5-item list of numbers. You might have a 50,000 or a 50 million list, and you might have to add them all up. So there are a couple of ways to do that. I'm going to really show you this from first principles. We're going to use a loop to do it. And now there are 2 types of loops I'm going to talk about this week. One is called the for loop, and one is called the while loop. And my general philosophy on loops is you can pretty much do everything with a for loop. A while loop can sometimes be very, very useful, but in my experience, they cause a lot of trouble as well. Because if you get a while loop wrong, you end up in a situation where you might be looping forever and your computer will just crash. It's quite easy to crash things with a while loop, less so with a for loop. Okay, but let's stick with for loops for now. I want to create a loop. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to start my loop with the word for. Okay, and you see it's gone purple, which means Python knows something's going on. And then what I want to do, I'm going to create a new variable here, which is just going to be a placeholder for each element in my list in turn. So I'm just going to call it num, right? For num in my list. Okay, colon, and that colon at the end of that line is really, really important. And then I'm going to hit enter, and you'll notice Python has automatically indented my code, just as I would have done for a conditional statement. If this, then that, or if colon, it would have indented it. It does it for the loops as well. And again, this is a key feature of the Python language. It uses that tab to, one, make your code a bit more accessible and a bit more readable, but also to decide what to do and when. So it's really important you have that tab in there, otherwise you're going to get an indentation error. What do I want to do now? I want to add these numbers up. Okay, so I think what I should have done first is I should have just created an empty variable called total. Oops, total. And I'm going to set it to 0. So I'm going to count, and I'm going to loop through these items, and every time I encounter a new element, I want to add it to my running total. So there's a couple of ways I can do that. I'll show you the long way. Total equals total plus num. And what that's going to do is it's going to take my first total. So the first time on the list, it's going to get this 3. And it's going to take my total, which is set to 0. And it's going to say, I want to define a new total, which is 0 plus 3. So then my total becomes 3. And then I loop again. And this time it's a 7. So I've got a 3 plus a 7. That gives me 10, and so on until I get to the end of the list. And then once I've done that, I can print out the total. And you'll notice that I have finished with this indent, and I've come back over to the left here. So I don't want to do this within the loop. I can do it within the loop, but what it will do is it'll print out the running total as it scans through the loop. Okay. Let me just run this, see what happens. There we go. I get a total of 26, which is correct. Let me show you what would happen if I had done this inside the loop. There you go. It would have output the new total every time I iterated through my loop. Okay, so I don't want to do that. I could do it, it's all right, but really, printing things out takes a bit of energy in Python, so I only want to do it at the end. Okay, there's a shortcut to be had here, and often you'll see a symbol that looks like this: plus equals num. So if I run that, I get the same answer. So this plus equals is a kind of shorthand for total equals total plus num. It's simply saying I just want to add the number to the existing total variable. There's a minus as well. I could have, if I wanted to subtract, or I could have multiplied as well. So your operator followed by the equals is a kind of nice little shorthand. Okay, right. So that's question 1 done. Before I move on, I've made you use a for loop to answer this question, because I wanted to show you what a for loop looks like. However, there is a much easier way of doing all of this. Print sum my list. Put the total in there. There we go. Does the same thing. So there is an existing function in Python that will do exactly what we did. And I suspect if we were to inspect that function, I'm not going to do it now, it will look suspiciously like what we coded. Okay, so there's always more than one way to do something in Python. Right, we'll go and take a look at question 2 next.